Welcome to the second video in the series about ButtonPlus drop-downs. In this video we're going to look at some more advanced techniques, including using multiple columns in drop-downs, making mega menus, and inserting drop-down menus into button bar. First of all, let's take a look at the drop-down that we're going to try to create, and it's the one on the ButtonPlus drop-downs page. And you can see, if we just scroll down the page, that it's the try it out button, and you can see we've got two columns in there, and in one of the columns we've got another drop down, and it all behaves rather nicely responsively, and the drop downs move so they don't collide with the side of the screen. So that's the basic thing that we're going to be trying to create. We've already got our button on the page, so first thing we need to do is simply to add a drop down menu to it. Now our drop down menu by default will have one link stack in it. Now in this case we're going to just delete that link stack, because what we want to do is add some drop columns. Now drop columns are specifically for making contained drop down menus. We'll come to it later, but for mega menus it's great to use just normal stacked columns or foundation columns. The point of the drop column stack is when we have a two column drop down rather than a big wide mega menu. So let's just quickly get some content into this, and I'm going to put the content in that we had on the drop down page, and that's the column on the left, and we had another column on the right which I've already got pre-made as well, just to save a bit of time, but they're just full of links. This one's set as a heading, the top left, and on the right hand side we've got our ButtonPlus forming a nested drop down, the second level drop down, and that's all covered in the first video about drop down menus. So this is what we've got directly from the demo site, and you can see that when we preview it we've got a two column drop down, and we've got our second level drop down dropping out of that. So what we're going to talk about is how these drop column stacks work. The actual columns themselves are not stacked columns, they're not foundation columns, they are ButtonPlus columns made especially for the drop column stack. So you can't put them anywhere else, and they do a specific job in here. You can see in each of the column stacks we have some visibility settings for them. We have a column order, so when they're stacked you can swap the order around. It's very easy, and I'll show you that in a while. We've got some padding controls and some background colors should you need them when they're normal or when they're stacked one on top of the other. We've got a gutter collapse as well, but that's pretty self-explanatory. So back to our column stack, which contains each of these single column drop downs. First thing to say is there's no setting of one column, two column, three columns. If you put three column stacks into the drop columns, then you will get three columns. So we've added another one and another one, we get four, and so on. Now obviously these can stack when we want them to, either in a mobile menu or at a breakpoint, but they sort of automatically take up the room that they need. So let's just get rid of these two that we don't need, and let's focus on the layout of this column stack. And it's very easy. In most cases you won't need to change anything at all. What's more important is the settings on your drop down menu. So let's start there. So we've got drop down or mega menu as our first choice, and we're going to be making a normal drop down menu just for the moment. The reveal type fade or slide and so on and so forth. But we're going to focus on this minimum width setting, which will default to 100% wide. So it will be a minimum width of the button. This just stops it getting too small when we've got very short links. Now when we're making multiple column drop downs, it's better to set this to a pixel width, or a rem or an m if you want, but most people can visualize pixels more easily. And we can leave it set to 100 for now, but bear in mind that when it stacks on mobile menus, sometimes you need to make it a bit wider to give room for things like this button here that says another drop down, because that's going to be quite wide. So I happen to know that 200 pixels is a nice number for this. Now this is only the minimum width. It's not going to affect how the desktop columns work. They will take up as much width as they need, as we'll see in their settings. So really that's all we need to focus on for now on our drop down menu settings, and we can move on to the columns. So with the columns selected, we're going to go into preview mode, and we're going to see what happens when we change some of the settings. Now we've got our two columns, and you can see immediately that this one is wider than this one. They are proportionally spaced according to their content, and that's the default setting. And if we look at these controls and we think, right, okay, we'll change this one and stretch it to the container, and there's absolutely no change. And this is because we set the min width on the drop down menu to 200 pixels. And then remember, that's just a minimum width. So unless that was bigger than the menu size, then we have no alignment to do. The menu will be the size that it needs to be from its content. Again with the column size as well. They're set to equal columns there, but you can see at the moment they're not equal. And that's because we're not stretching them to the container. So you can forget about these settings until we get a bit further on and we look at the mega menus. Now you will see several things about this straight away without any settings. If we make the screen really narrow, it automatically has stacked into one column. You haven't had to set anything. At the moment, the stack setting on the right here is set to when the bar or group stacks. That's if it's in a menu bar, in a button bar or a button group. It's not, and it just works. Our drop down is a normal drop down. Now if this was in a button bar, this drop down would have become an accordion. But because it's just a drop down on the page, then it behaves just as it would on desktop. It just gets realigned. So let's have a look at why we need the special column stack that behaves like that. And it is quite a rare use where you'd want two columns in a drop down. But I've got another page here. So this is exactly the same layout, just with our special drop down column replaced with a normal foundation 2 column stack. And let's see how that looks. And as you can see straight away, it's very different. It's gone full width. There is an edge to our drop down. It's right up against the edge of the page area, so you can't see it very clearly. But we've also lost our automatic alignment of this button. If you remember, the nested drop down is made with another ButtonPlus, which automatically becomes a drop down link. Now because this is not in the drop down menu or the dedicated drop down column, it's lost its special alignment. Now you could manually do that, but it's not really appropriate, and it's not the right way to go about it. The other thing you'll see is that the button margin is there. Now that's easy to fix. We can just remove our bottom margin, which is not a bad idea when you've got a drop down of any sort. But it's not ideal. Where using a foundation column is ideal is in mega menus. It's great for mega menus. It does all the things you need in a mega menu because we are working at full width. So let's take a look at a mega menu, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the one that's on the ButtonPlus demo site, which is on the Learn button. And here it is just in isolation. It's in a button bar. We've got two zones. If you've watched the button bar zone video, you'll know a bit more about what's going on there. We've got our image on the left, and right aligned in this zone we have our main part of the menu. It's a bit hard to see because the text is white and we haven't got the background in here. We've got our home, features, drop down and fact buttons, and then there's the Learn button, and this appears on the site, as you can see. Let's just take a look at how it looks on the live site. And here it is, and a bit of hocus pocus makes it appear when we scroll, and we've got our mega menu with some nice icons in there. And just like all button bar menus, it magically transforms into an accordion for mobile menus. So looks great, and it's very, very easy to create. So we've got our button with a drop down menu, and this time we have it set to mega menu because that's exactly what we want. No other settings required. We've got some custom styles for the menu items just so that we can style all these links together. We've got a series of our link stacks. These coloured ones are set to heading links, and we've dropped some images in as well. Other than that, it's a 3-column foundation stack, and it behaves just like a 3-column stack would if you put it anywhere else on the page. So it's really, really easy to design mega menus. Just forget it's a mega menu and just design your columns as normal. Now I'd just like to quickly finish off by showing you a sort of menu that the drop down columns were really made for. And what we've got here at the moment just is a button bar with some normal drop downs in it. Let's have a quick look how it looks. And there it is. We've got a couple of drop downs with some arbitrary text in it, and we've got our features menu, which is where we'd like to use our columns. So I'm going to add the columns, and I'm doing this just to show that this is absolutely default settings. I'm not going to change anything on the top column stacks. What I am going to do is drop some pre-made columns in there just to save time. So let's just get rid of these blank ones. So all these column stacks, again, the actual columns themselves are just default settings, but I've already populated them with some links just to save a bit of time. So let's add a second column. That one's got some badge icons like we saw in the first video. And a third one. Drop that inside the other column. There we go. Get it out. And that's the third one. And one final one. So we've got 4 columns. I haven't changed any of the settings whatsoever. And let's just see what we've got. And there we go. We've got a great little multi-column drop down menu. Now what we can do is make it look a little nicer than that. Let's turn off the dividers for a start off, and if we come back to our drop down menu before we preview, so this is the main drop down menu stack, so with the dividers off it looks a lot better. But we've got a little setting here that says show pip when in bar, and you only want to use this when it's in a button bar, but it just finishes it off nicely with the little pip. And you can see how quick and simple that was. That is all the default settings on those columns, and it's very easy to set up. And that's exactly the sort of thing that it was designed to do. So with that, let's put a mobile menu on it just to finish it off and just show how easy that is. Add bar features, toggle menu. We're going to leave that all at its default settings. We could put some text on it, but we don't need to. And let's preview. So here we go. We go to mobile, we get our mobile menu, and all our desktop items have nicely ordered themselves up. Everything has become accordions. So all the drop down menus are accordions, and there's our 3-column in the features accordion. So that's how easy it is to make a mobile menu. One stack dropped in. And really this is so simple, and yet it gives such a unique look to your sites. And that concludes this video on the drop down columns and a few more of the advanced drop down features. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.